Welcome. We are here tonight for Dr. Tracy's on self regulation. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Tracy, and she's going to get us started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our master's class on a very important subject that is called self regulating. As we go through the room, I would just like, by a show of hands, how many of you, I'm going to ask a two-part question. Number one, how many of you are familiar with self regulating? So let me just see a really quick show of hands.
Are you asking familiar or good at it?
At least familiar. At least the one thing my mom has always taught me is that when something doesn't have a name, it's like fighting a ghost. But when something has a name, you can grab a hold of it and shape it and mold it and turn it into something that works for your life, or totally kick it out of your life if it's something that's not working well for you. So let me just get acclimated to the room. How many of you are uh, understand self-regulating, you know what it is, and you're here just to get a fresh up course? Good. You guys are really good at self-regulating. You can calm yourself. Okay, all right. How many of you have heard about self-regulating and it really sounds wonderful, but it eludes you? Okay, good. And
Learning how to do it.
okay, and how many of you have no idea what self-regulating is? Okay. So today our class it's all about self-regulating, and my subtitle to this class is how to call upon your inner calm coach. I want to start by sharing a story. Some of you may have heard me share this earlier. And the other day I was in the grocery store and there was this man who looks like a grandfather, and with him was his grandchild, and he was standing in line at the grocery store, and the little boy was having an absolute fit. And the grandfather says, "Michael, take a deep breath. We can get through this." And the little boy is like, "What?" And he said, "Michael, breathe. It's not as bad as it seems, and we can get through this. Take breath." And his grandchild, and he's, "Michael, just a few more minutes, and this too shall pass. We're going to get through it." And so the grandfather comes up to the cashier, and the cashier says, "Oh my gosh, you are such an amazing man." He says, "Why do you say that?" He says, "You are being so good about calming Michael down." And he looks at the cashier and he said, "Michael, I'm Michael. This is my grandson, and I can't do anything to calm this little guy down." That describes self regulating. Now, the reason when I look at my recovery journey, one of the most important tools when I really started to feel empowered over my trauma. Do those words resonate with anybody in the room? When I began to actually see myself gaining traction over my trauma, it was when I found myself using the gift of self regulating and it working. So, this is a very important skill to learn to keep life safe for yourself. Because one of the most important elements to a woman over the age of 30 is, guess what? Safety. And I think that there are many amazing men and women out there that will treat you right, will 9 out of 10 times do the right thing, be there for you. But at the end of the day, the safety, especially our emotional safety, we are really the only ones who can learn to grab a hold of ourselves and hold on to ourselves in the midst of spin out. So today I'm going to talk to you about a really important subject called self-regulating. So, what exactly is self-regulating? I'm going to give you the layman's definition of it. Self-regulating is basically, as I just said, the ability to hold on to yourself when life and your emotions and your thoughts and your sanity begins to spin out of control. The vision that I'm getting in my mind's eye right now, I don't know in the last time any of you have tripped and fallen, but tripping is such a scary thing, especially as we get older, right? But how many of you have tripped and actually fallen down? Okay. And the next thing you know, oh my gosh, the world just happened. How many of you have been walking and all of a sudden the traction underneath your feet, you could step on ice, you could have tripped something on your foot, and you're like that cartoon character. And all of a sudden you stop and you're like, got this. And somehow you are not quite sure how it happened, or you caught yourself and nothing happened. And that that inner cheerleader is like, oh my God, look what you just did. You saved yourself from getting hurt. And there is this sense of great accomplishment. Does this make sense to anyone? When you have actually rescued yourself, you actually saved yourself. And suddenly, this person that we've made so many choices in life to really hurt ourselves, we give ourselves an eternal high five. And oh, I'm not so bad to live in. Why? Because we had the ability to save ourselves when we were about to spin out. That is what self-regulation is. It's the ability that not if, but when life is spinning out, to catch yourself from falling. Self-regulation is something that every single trauma victim needs to know. Let me repeat that. Self-regulating is something that every single trauma victim needs to know. Why? Because we're a bit sensitive. And any day of the week, at any time of the day, something or somebody can say the wrong thing and nick right into that unhealed part of our being. Sometimes that we don't even know we're not unhealed until we're spinning out. I'm going to ask you guys to think about over the past week or two, or the last time that you were cruising along and all of a sudden somebody said or did something and you found yourself yelling at somebody, raging at somebody, panicking, crying, getting a panic attack. Anybody can relate to that? I'll tell you what happened to me just last week. So I was in Greece in my happy place and I was having a bit of a dinner party. And when I'm over there, I'm with a lot of people that English is not their first language. I was having a little get together for a friend of mine whose late birthday it was. And I literally got a phone call that afternoon and it was, hey, we have some people coming over that want to say goodbye to you before you go. And can we bring a cake because it's his birthday, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people are coming over. And it was right around dinner time. And I'm racing and I'm going into my cupboards and I'm trying to pull out anything just to make some food. And I'm making a soda, I'm doing this, and everybody's happy, and I'm feeling really good and empowered. And somebody walked into my kitchen and they used the words, "What is this?" Now, it was probably them just saying, "What is this food?" in their limited English. But as the Greeks talk really loud and with their voice and whatnot, it sounded a bit aggressive to me. And the next thing I know, I'm ready to tell somebody to get the heck out of my house. How dare they come into my house and bully me, which what it felt like, attack me in my own kitchen over food? I'm sorry. That life is one that I don't live anymore. When I chose to walk out of abuse, one thing is like nobody will ever raise their voice at me again. Nobody will yell at me over pasta or toilet paper or Chips Ahoy cookies or all the things that I used to get traumatized by years ago in my past. Over 30 years ago, my friends, did that trauma wound happen? And it had been so long since somebody raised their voice because I'm a pretty dang good cook. I'm pretty sharp in the kitchen and yeah, making food. And I'm not used to somebody being unhappy, let alone what felt like raising their voice at me. And I literally napped inside my head and I was like, that's it. Leave, get out. And all these things were about to come out of my mouth. And then all of a sudden, I remembered my gift of self regulating. And I was in my conversation in my head went like this: Tracy, this is probably not as it seems to you. Your trauma voice just heard a conversation and you're probably not hearing things clearly. So before you blast and blow somebody's head off, take breath and check it out to make sure you're hearing okay. Because you, Tracy, getting yelled at over food in the kitchen is a what? A trigger. And thank God I was able to hold on to myself. I was feeling everything. I was feeling the fear. I was feeling the panic. Old trauma was being brought up in the middle of a beautiful evening. It was a perfect storm that hit my life. And 30 years after somebody traumatized me, it hit me. The gift of self regulating is the ability to hold on to yourself and stop yourself from, as I like to say, ruining your own reputation by acting like an insane person. When somebody was literally saying, "What is this?" as in, "What's for dinner?" And what I heard is, "What in the hell is this, you failure?" And you're about to get abused for making the wrong thing. That's what my trauma were told me. Self-regulating, as I said, is for any person who has experienced trauma. And anytime we're going along and all of a sudden we find ourselves imploding, panicking, having dark thoughts, having perfectionist thoughts, having any type of thoughts that don't best serve us, it means that we have encountered something that reminds us of a trauma wound that's possibly not totally healed. So when we encounter it, what do? So we ignite. So how are some of the ways that we can ignite when we get triggered? For me, when I used to get triggered, I would, because I had so much fear inside of me, I would feel my blood run cold. I would go inward. I would panic in fear. And then if you kept pushing me, I would cry. Fast forward, as I have learned to steer more into anger, which it is a more high vibrating, better way to do it. I then went to the other extreme where I would get triggered. And the next thing I know, I am using every word in the human language that's not so pretty and feminine and burning bridges left, right, and center, raising my voice because I turned my fear into anger and still destroying people just like I was destroyed in the past by somebody, right? Neither one of those are great ways to make friends and influence people, right? So, self regulating is being able to move beyond the fear, move beyond the anger, move beyond the blues. I don't know how many of you have ever suffered from depression or anything of that nature. Self regulating is being able to talk back to any of the triggered trauma voices that are happening to you so you can stabilize yourself as quickly as possible. I don't know how many of you live in California and have had a wonderful experience of an earthquake. How many of you have felt an earthquake? So that's what it feels like to self regulate. All that stuff is going inside of you, and you're even thinking, can I hold on to this? Is this gonna, how bad is this gonna get? And then you feel it slowing down and you're able to grab a hold of yourself. So it's not, I have ever reached a point in my recovery where I handled things 100% correct. There's always that awareness to say, okay, Tracy, you're triggered. So one of the first things that needs to happen to learn the skills of self regulating is to become aware of when you are triggered and what you are feeling when you're triggered. Why is that important? The answer is because whatever you're experiencing at that moment, it's not truth. It's not really what's happening. Now, let me give a little bit of a broader spectrum. Are there manipulative people out there? Yes. Are there people who will try to yank your chain? Yes. So every time I get triggered, it means that it's my fantasy. It's my old trauma wounds launching. It's about a 50-50 yes or no. And what I mean by that is that if you're with people that you know are safe and something happens, like I misunderstood the words, what is this? As something negative, my trauma wound spoke. But if I'm with somebody who's a manipulator, and they are trying to yank my chain. They are trying to shame me. They are trying to get a reaction out of me. I still need the tool of self regulation so I don't fuel source the narcissist. We need this tool of self regulating both for everyday life when we're at fault and our trauma wound gets activated, or when we're dealing with somebody who's intentionally trying to get fuel or a reaction out of you, and you're able to keep yourself calm, not to engage. Self-regulating is it's getting that getting ahead of the spin cycle. Self-regulating is when you can see yourself going into the spin cycle and you're able to have clarity of thought. Self-regulating is when you're in the middle of freaking out, and all of a sudden that calm coach says, come on, pull it back. You can do this, Michael. Breathe your way through it. We can pass this moment. And it's one of the most fantastic gifts that we can give ourselves, because the more we use it, the more the more we use it, the more we realize that we are the safest person to protect ourselves. We become our own calm coaches, and we become our own heroes, and we become our own rescuers. And when you step by step learn about this amazing thing called self regulating, and you see yourself do it, it actually reprograms it begins to reprogram your brain that you are the champion of your life. You are the person that can navigate yourself through the storms. You are the one who's going to keep your life safe. And whenever you meet confident people, I'm talking genuinely confident people that when you look at them, you're like, wow, they're such a stability to this person. It's because this person knows that they have the power to protect themselves in life. And that's the beautiful thing about self regulating. So, self regulation always happens. Trauma victims are the most susceptible to it. I'm going to try that one again. We trauma victims are the most susceptible to being triggered. So, number one, learn your triggers. What situations cause you to start to spin out? Be aware of those. You can prepare for those. If you're going to see family or friends or an environment or a boss or a coworker, you can pack on all this and you can mindfully go into this situation saying, okay, calm coach, and you can have forethought about it because you know this person triggers you. Going around the room and who would ever like to share, how many of you can identify how you get activated and triggered? Earlier, I said my first response was my blood ran cold and I would withdraw. And then I went to the opposite extreme where I would fight back with my fury of 30 years of trauma. I'll just give you a little quick tool right now. Because I was able to give name to this thing, I always say, I don't need anybody involved in my life saying bad things about me, trying to mess up my world because I am completely qualified to do that all for myself. I can ruin my own reputation in a matter of 30 seconds of being a triggered trauma victim. And part of my goal in my recovery journey is to have a lot more grace with myself, but also to step more and more away from damaging my own reputation. The point that I want to make is earlier, I said that our triggers are lies. And the reason that our triggers are lies is because, but the reason that our triggers are lies, but the reason that our triggers are so powerful is thought is everything. Thought is everything. And here's more of the formula because I'm all about finding formula to get back to our joy. When we get triggered, we're not being triggered over, okay, as I was making spaghetti. It was not the spaghetti. It was not if somebody asked me what I was making, it's never about the spaghetti. It's because somewhere in our being, we are being taken back to a place where we were wounded and our power was taken from us. So one of the tools when we find ourselves triggered is you stop and you speak to that trigger. You say, okay, I'm triggered. Really clear. I'm triggered. How I'm perceiving it is not in the reality today. It is something to do with my past. As I would say, it's not the spaghetti. Or I'll sidebar on a story. Years ago, I was working with a client, a couple's client, and it was Christmas Eve. And all of a sudden, I get this phone call, and they are in a knockdown, drag out, sheer fight. And she's crying, and he's screaming, and both of them are ruining their reputations. And I said, "What? What? How did this happen on Christmas Eve that you guys got into this big fight?" And you know what I was told? It was over the steak knives. Queens, it's never the steak knives. It's that whenever we are triggered, we're being taken back to a place where we lost our power and we feel disrespected, we feel fearful, we feel invaded, we feel tired, whatever it is, but it's not the reality. Now, I want to swing back to so John and Laura, who have both shared something, and start walking through what self regulation sounds like. Laura, in your case, if your thought says, I don't want to be abandoned, and somebody says something, suddenly you're taken back, not to what's happening here, in the here and the now. You're being taken back to wherever that original abandonment happened, to the original person who abandoned you. Because here's one thing that I've noticed in my life is that the people who I was so afraid of abandoning me for years, if I was healthy, I would pray for them to abandon me because they weren't good people. Because people who love you don't abandon you, and people who love you don't trigger you like that. But me, because I was so traumatized, this cruel person would do something to abandon me, and I'd be freaking out that I didn't want them to leave. Where the inner coach, the inner calm coach in me would say, Tracy, take it easy. The way that you're seeing this might not be true. This is your childhood trauma. This is a trauma somewhere in the past. And as quickly as I can, I start doing an inventory. Where did this take me? 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 And when I was in the middle of Greece hosting a birthday party and somebody asked me, what's this? What's my pasta? I was suddenly back in 30 years ago in the kitchen where my ex-husband used to get so abusive if I made food wrong. So the first thing is this awareness that you have over where you are. And the first voice that you do is I'm activated. Then I have this thing, depending on how long it takes me to catch myself, right? Tracy, you don't need to be ruining your reputation today. And normally I'll say, these people don't know you well enough to do that yet. Freak out. I would probably freak them out if they saw my trauma wounds, right? Then I listen to the message of the trigger. Laura's, I heard really directly, you're disposable, right? You're stupid. Those are trauma voices. Because the truth in life is that we're not disposable. Yeah, but that person walked out on me. When you get healthy, you'll probably want them to walk out on you because it saves you the misery of having to say the tough words of, you gotta go, man. Do you see what I'm saying? So become aware of what triggers you. Become aware of where the trigger is taking you. It's never the pasta. It's never the steak knives. And get yourself back to the truth of where you are. The second that you can connect the spin that's happening right there to say, this is not reality right here and now. This is my old trauma wound talking. Right there, you're able to grab a hold of yourself and put yourself in a holding pattern. And that's the very first thing that I do is I just put myself in a holding pattern. And I very quickly, I have this imaginary, and it was this great tool that when I was going through my trauma recovery that my therapist taught me is we all have different love languages. And my primary love language is words of affirmation. I am very sensitive to what you say. I'm very sensitive to how you say it. And I know that about myself. So I grab a hold of myself and I said, okay, you know what, Tracy? It's not true what you're saying. And I try to just hold my tongue. Just hold your tongue, stabilize yourself. And I literally tell myself, don't speak. Don't speak until you have the facts. Don't speak until you have the facts. And part of those facts are saying, this is not the reality of what's happening right now. Just because this person, let's say that they are a nasty person, and just because this person may be speaking yell at you, or maybe complaining over the pasta when you're just trying to do a right thing, or maybe being rude and insulting you, you don't have to align with it. One of my self-regulating calm coaches, one of the voices that my calm coach will say is, Tracy, just because they say it doesn't make it true. And this person is entitled to their opinion about anything in the world. You don't own them, but you don't have to align with it, Tracy. You don't have to believe that it's true. You can just laugh about it. You can put it in a, oh, that's interesting box. Or, well, they must, like to eat old dirty food too, because if that comes out of their mouth and their thought process, they just have a really weird, quirky lifestyle. I start pulling up anything I can to deal with what my therapist taught me, which was to put an acrylic wall around me. And she taught me this because I was in a season of my life where I was still being exposed to the person who was so abusive to me. And she said to me, just imagine, Tracy, that whenever you're with this person, you can see them, but you have this big acrylic wall that protects you. And any words that they say, it just springs right off the wall and hit back at them. And so when I start to feel myself starting to spin out, I immediately go, it's like a cartoon. There it is. And I put that around me and I'm telling myself, my calm coach, my self-regulating voice is saying, no matter what they say, it is not going to penetrate this wall. I am safe. I am protected. They can have any opinion that they want. It is not a reflection of me. It is a reflection of them. They are entitled to do this, but I am not obligated to accept it. And because, Tracy, you're able to draw a differentiation between their hostile words and your heart, you're able to protect yourself. So we're good. We're holding on to ourselves. We're holding on to ourselves. Now let's think this through. This person is actually getting mad over pasta. This person is actually saying that they believe that this is their truth. What do you think about that, Tracy? What is your opinion about what they're saying right now? My opinion is that I think that this is a bunch of waste of time. That I don't want this type of a lifestyle with somebody telling me these things and bringing me down or spinning me out of control. It's just not how I want my life. Oh my gosh, I remember the days when I used to talk like that and say all those nonsensical things or behave in such an overly reaction. I was really a traumatized being. So I ventured to say that this person also has trauma in them. And rather than judge them or lower myself to that level or allow myself to take 5 years off of my life to stress if I'm going to engage in this person, I have a choice. I can speak up and say, I don't necessarily agree with that. If they're a person who has ears and can absorb you, maybe I'll say that. But if there's somebody who just has to win and they're talking crazy talk, I will just excuse myself and walk away. Why? Because I understand my limits. I understand that if you keep picking, you're going to get a side of me that I don't even like. So part of my self-regulating is also understanding when I need to remove myself from a situation. I ask myself, is this a good time to speak up or is this going to just lead to a bigger fight? We're all going to be fighting over steak knives. Somebody has to be the bigger person in the room, Tracy. That's what my calm coach will say. Somebody's got to be a bigger person. Is it going to be you? And the other side of me, she's, I don't want it to be me. I will tell them off right now. How dare they? How dare they? And you know what that is? That's ego. That's all ego talking. And yes, we need healthy ego, but if your ego prompts you to engage with somebody that's going to just make matters worse, it's better to let your calm coach talk. I guess they need to have the last word, but healing and having the last word is understanding that just because they say it doesn't make it true. And your calm coach, your self regulating will allow you to keep your power. One thing that I want you to be aware of is every single time that you get triggered and you're taken back to your past, a connecting point for you is to, when you identify that original trauma wound, is to ask yourself, when I was young and I would get stressed or fearful, or angry. I wasn't allowed to get angry when I was young. I didn't learn to get angry until I was like 40. But when I would go into these stressful zones, how was I treated? How was I treated? Was your anger validated? Was your fear recognized and you were schooled into a better place? Or were you punished for having emotion? The reason I mention that is because, as somebody who needs to learn the skill of self regulating, it is very important that you don't hold on to these words, that you don't treat yourself as the way you were treated when you were young and yell at yourself because you're feeling certain emotions. You need to have that moment of clarity. And it's something that I talk about a lot in the Reclaiming Me program. You can create just that little sliver where new behavior can get in between there, between you and the trauma. You can start to turn things around. But if when you were young and you got triggered, you became afraid and you got yelled at for it, and now you find yourself yelling when you get afraid, you're continuing the abuse cycle towards yourself. You're repeating the trauma from your childhood. If you got triggered and you spoke up and people ignored it, your inner calm coach is going to say, can't ignore this. We need to protect ourselves now. We don't need to go crazy. We don't need to ruin our reputation. We do need to do something. We are not going to repeat the original trauma. Have a voice, have a boundary, have distance, whatever it is, but become aware. I was punished when I was young for even having a complaint about anything, right? And so shame was a big way that I would get triggered. That's why I would go quiet. I would feel sick to my stomach. I would feel embarrassed, all these different things. And all I was doing was repeating the same behavior that I had towards myself. The beautiful thing about being an adult is that we don't get in trouble anymore. We don't get in trouble by anyone. And that's what I tell myself, that if I'm with somebody "Run," and they're yelling, I'll say, you know what? I don't get in trouble. So here goes my thing. There's my acrylic wall. Those words are going to bounce right off that wall. I do not allow them into my life. This is their issue, not mine. They're entitled to behave that way. Do I have to accept it? Absolutely. Do I have to allow it into my life? Absolutely not. See how it works? So, in this class, I wanted to teach you some power words so that when you begin to spin out, because we're going to reach, no matter how far along in your healing journey that you get, you will on some days be tired. People will be just pressing at every last nerve. You let down your boundaries and people suck a little bit too much out of energy out of you. Somebody's having an awful day and they forgot that you are not their dumping ground, and here they come and they dump on you, and oopsie, they forgot, and now they're activated, then you're activated, and the next thing you know, you're fighting and or arguing or screaming or breaking down over the steak knives. With your self-regulator, we don't need to go there anymore. And there's ways to divert people. If you have somebody, any of you have people who intentionally sometimes want to fight with you, just pick a fight, just do something. Yeah. And so what do? They come in and they make a jab, right? What's that? What are you cooking? I'm using that only because it was really fresh with me. If my calm coach is not intact, I'm going to say, how dare you speak to me that way? I'm just trying to be nice. I'm just trying to do something nice for you. I'm cooking what I want. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat my food. But what would a calm coach say? A self regulator would say, you got to hold on to yourself. And if this had nothing to do with you, Tracy, what would you ask that person? Probably ask that person, are you really getting upset over pasta? You sure you want to do that on this glorious evening? Hey, man, you sound a little hot under the collar. Is everything okay? Can I get you anything? Well, hi there, buddy. So you can diffuse people instead of engaging with people. Well, they just come up, and it's not really a nice way to greet somebody wonderful like me who wants to just see a wonderful person like you. Now, why would we want to have that type of a conversation since life is so short? And you completely, with your inner calm coach, take the conversation to a different area. So there's so many ways, but the most important thing that you need to do is separate yourself from the negative emotions that you're hearing and you're feeling. And you remind yourself this is not true. It is not about the steak knives. It is not about the pasta. It is not about somebody interrupting me. When somebody interrupts me, it's about I'm losing track of my day and I'm feeling powerless. It's about feeling disrespected. It's about the different reasons why we get triggered. And when you're able to just say, I'm not going to allow myself to go there. Life happens. What if you are the one who's the jerk? What if you come in there, you're all triggered, and you just go and you annihilate somebody and you start ruining your own reputation? You, when your calm coach begins to knock at your door, wow, you got about 10 out of 10 on ruining your reputation on that one, Trace. You go over and in order to reprogram your brain, because when you launch this tool of self-regulating, you're actually carving new brain channels in your brain. You have to go back and have a do-over. And you go up to the people and you say, you know, I want to apologize because the way I behaved, that was really not what I wanted to say right now. I was activated. It triggered an old one. And if you say these things out loud, I got triggered. What I heard you say was that you're worthless and I can yell at you over pasta, which I know you would never say that if they're trying to manipulate. And so, what I really wanted to say is, and then you say things in the dignified woman that you are clear, calm, concise. And you reclaim your dignity when you're blowing it. But the great thing about understanding self regulation is that at any time you have the power to stop the spin. And the beautiful thing about it is now that you have this information, the next time you start to feel yourself freaking out, as the muscle gets stronger, hear your inner coach go, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. Get it. All right. Sitting calm, breathe, stand up. Stand up. Now you got to go apologize. Now you got to go apologize after that little blow up that you did. But I didn't start it. They started it. No, but it's your dignity. It's your dignity factor. And the beautiful thing about I heard this great quote the other day that I absolutely fell in love with it. And it said, truly, only authentically powerful people can have humility. And I thought, wow, because they truly know they truly know their strength, truly know their strength. And they're truly okay with their authentic self and understanding that they're not perfect. So if we're really committed to this healing journey, and I'm really committed to my healing journey, and I work in it every single day of my life because I love it. I love evolving. I love just waking up like, oh my gosh, I can do and become anything I want in this world. And my past sometimes comes up and grabs a hold of me and brings up old versions of myself. But because I know that I'm so committed to my recovery, I have not a problem in the world owning if I spin out. Gosh, man, that was just not the most dignified moment. I want to apologize first to myself and then apologize to you because it's really not how I want to behave. Here's how I want to behave. And every time we do that, muscle grows in us stronger and stronger. And we will freak out and then come back and freak out and leave this. And it'll start to look like this. And what will happen is one day you'll be in a situation, you'll hear something that you'll say, oh, and all of a sudden you're being like, I'm not going to go there. I've got too much to do. Life is too beautiful of a place. And that calm coach can kick in and recalibrate yourself because the purpose of life is to live in joy. That's the purpose of life, is to live in joy and to be able to make the choices. We make the choices to find our own happiness. I have a wonderful tool that I use in my life is that when I'm with people that get activated, I will say, my calm coach, now that it has a lot of strength behind it, my calm coach will say, hey, this is not the existence that I want. I don't want this type of existence. I don't want to be in conversations where I have to arm wrestle. So we can regroup right now and have a really adult conversation and get back to joy as quickly as possible or go our separate ways so we can both calm down. What do you want to do? I don't linger in bad moods anymore. I don't linger in dysfunction anymore. I don't hang out with it. That when I find myself there, my calm coach comes out, my self-regulating tools come out to say, you got to get back to joy. And the reason that it is so important to live in joy is because when we're vibrating at the levels of joy, that's when all the beautiful things in life effortlessly come into our being. And because I lost so many years in the depression, in the anxiety, in the perfectionism, in the abuse, in the trauma, in the worthlessness, in the lack of self-love, and the abandonment trauma, and all the things that I had going on in me, I don't want to waste another minute of my life going back to something that I've already healed from. And I learned that, and I love this, is the fastest way to make up for lost time. How many of you have lost time in your trauma? That you look back and you're like, I just wasted so many years doing this. So the way that we reclaim that time is, guess how? Get back to joy. Make a conscious choice to be the person that you want to be, to behave the way that you want to behave, to be the bigger person in the room. Do you know how good it feels to be the bigger person in the room? Talk about being able to be humble. The first time that all of a sudden you go, you know what? I'm going to be the bigger person here. I'm going to be the bigger person and I'm going to apologize. And I'm going to apologize fast and quickly and with accountability. And no, I did this because of you. No, I did it because I'm traumatized and I just like to ruin my reputation on vacation. I forget that I have the power not to do that. That's what it means to live in power. And when we learn this amazing gift of self-regulating, we can pull ourselves back to good very quickly. And every time we pull ourselves back, we retrain our brain that we're in control of our lives. And here's a power statement that I want to leave with you. You are in control of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not in control of you. You are in control of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not in control of you. At any time, something can happen to you, and you can choose to believe that it's the ugly narrative story that you are telling yourself. This person just wants to bug me. This person is irritating me. This person hates me. This person thinks I'm stupid. This person. How is that working out for you? How is that working out for you? And what benefit do you have by beating yourself up like that and letting those thoughts go out of control instead of self regulating and saying, of all the thoughts in the world, Tracy, are you sure you want to hold on to that thought? Now, why would you want to do that, Tracy? Why would you want to think that people hate you? And if people don't like you, why do you want to ponder on that? Why don't you just let people not like you? There's a concept. So then they have to like me. But I want people to like me. You don't like everyone, so why does everybody have to like you, ego lady? That's how my self-regulator talks. And what it allows me to do is I start to have a lot more compassion towards other people, with the first one being towards myself. When you self-regulate, you walk in deeper love because first you're showing love to yourself. You're showing that you are choosing to be your ally. You are choosing to be your protector. You are choosing to be the one who's going to show up and keep your life safe. It is one of the best tools that we have. And you can call upon it at any time. So number one, how do you become a self-regulator? You choose it. Now it has a name. And now you put it as the conscious part of your mind. You know what? I am so tired of allowing people to feel my power. I am so tired of losing days and weeks and months of my life by slipping into anxiety and perfectionism and depression and hurt feelings. And what good does it serve us? And how does this add to the quality of my life or my reputation or my joy? And is this mindset leading me closer to my goals and the joy of life, or is it stealing me from it? We have the power through our thoughts to tell ourselves any narrative that we want. They're going to abandon me. Okay. And not like we haven't abandoned before, but the universe is so good. And if that person walks out the door, it just simply means that a better one, as long as you're living in joy, is coming your way. Opportunity, people who interrupt, people who hurt you, insult you. We don't have to keep them around. But it all starts here. So learn your triggers. Connect the dots as to how this modern day trigger is actually connected to your past trauma. Don't treat yourself like you were treated when you had that fear, that anxiety, or that anger well up inside of you. Give yourself a new voice to be the cheerleader, to be the calm coach, to be the one who says, oh, cares if they love you or they don't love you. You have people who matter that love you or don't love you. This is what your self-regulating calm coach can do. Remember that we, at any time, have the power to have a do-over and to reintroduce the new self to the people around us with boundaries. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Certain power words. I don't enjoy this conversation. I don't enjoy this conversation, so I think I'm going to exit myself with it. Another one. I don't find it healthy to have arguments like this anymore. So as of today, I'm not having these type of arguments. You know what? I believe that you're a good person and I believe that I'm a good person. So why don't we make a commitment just to hold out for the good in both of us? And until we can both settle down, we'll circle back around. How's that working out for you, these heavy thoughts? They're not working out for me. They really hurt. Well, why don't you choose not to think about them anymore? You're an adult. If you're allergic to milk, you're not forced to drink milk anymore. Why are you forcing yourself to consume these thoughts? We don't have to. We are in control of our thoughts. Our thoughts are not in control of us. And all of this, we are such powerful individuals that we can be the rescuers of our life. And when we rescue our life, yeah, what a joyous journey it becomes. It's the voice of what if is actually an anxiety voice. And anxiety is a liar. And I wrote a book. It's called Breaking Up with Anxiety. And I actually have a course on it. It's called Breaking Up with Anxiety because I used to have terrible anxiety and I cured myself from it. And what I learned along my journey is that what if is the voice of anxiety, and anxiety is a liar. And what this voice does, it tries to kidnap you into the land of what if and when. And what my self regulating voice says, and a self regulating voice is very much a truth telling voice. It says, it tells me this: my past is my past, and I have no power in my past. There's nothing I can do to change the past except learn from it. Maybe I have to apologize from it, or maybe I need to walk away so far from it that I don't have any connection with it anymore. And I can do whatever best works for me because this is my life, my journey. I have no power in the future. And anxiety tries to pull you into the land of what if. And when I go to the land of what if and when, I am powerless. My only point of power is right here, right now. And that is what is called present time living, being mindful, showing up in present time. And only when we're living in our present time is where we have power to make choices to change our life. So it's really a discipline. Whenever I find myself saying, oh my gosh, and what if when I say, oh, come on, my inner coach, oh, come on, Tracy. How many times have we gone to the land of what if and when? And how much have you accomplished by doing that? Gosh, I've lost months and years of my life living in the fear of what if and when. Then why are you going to do it? You only have so many breaths left in this existence of yours. You want to take them gasping for air or breathing in the beauty of life? The choice is mine. Right there, I self regulated. I'm back to joy as quickly as I can, my reward, because we're very reward based animals. And my reward is, oh my gosh, if I'm living in joy, I'm going to be able to manifest my life that I desire. So I'm not even going to waste my time in powerless places because I don't know about you, but when I was the complete trauma victim and the repeat trauma victim, I was powerless. And the moments that I can feel my power and know that I make my life safe, even if I make mistakes, as long as I stay in my present time living, I'm a powerful woman in my present time. It's the only place, though, that I have my power. Right here, right now. And so any of us that come from a trauma past, that there is something that we do called cushioning. And cushioning is we prepare ourselves for the worst case situation so it won't hurt so bad when it happens. But what we're doing is we're actually manifesting that bad thing to happen because we've already made a space in it. Now, in that interim period, when you're going from being somebody who used to just always live in the land of what if and when, that there's a discipline that you can do to say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to think of the worst case scenario one time, right? Just one time because I'm such a control freak and things have been so out of control. So if this happens, I'm going to do this. But what I've learned to do in my life is where I am in my life today. So my first was I would allow myself to think through the bad thing once. And then whenever I tried to go, that's a nope, you had your ones, nope. And I would pull myself back. And it was a lot of internal new brain channels having to go, having to be formed. And now where I am is as I just have an unwavering belief that I live in a good and friendly universe. I have a mantra that I chant to myself, especially when I'm having maybe a difficult day or a questioning day, that I come from an abandonment past. And so feeling forgotten or feeling invisible with a common emotion for me. And it can easily try to slip its way back to my present life. And I have a mantra that it says, I am in the eyes, if you call it God, universe, divine, whatever it is, 24/7. And every need that I have is important to the great divine to fulfill me. And it might not be right here, but it's not forgotten. It's not forgotten. This divine God being wakes up and thinks about how to meet my needs 24/7. And I am so confident of that happening that if things go my way, I'm like, cool, that was great. If they don't go my way, I'm like, it's cool. It doesn't matter. I'm not the least bit worried about it because I don't live in a universe where my needs don't get met anymore. I just absolutely refuse to have the mindset that my needs won't get met because that's how the universe is. We live in a friendly universe that wants to fulfill our needs. And the universe is like a Greek mother in that if you take one bite of food and you think it's delicious, all the universe wants to do is give you more and more of this delicious, satisfying stuff. That's where the spirit of gratitude comes in, but that's for a whole other different class.
Dr. Tracy, Laura submitted a question. How did you stop getting carried away with the emotions of the trigger? Once the feelings come, I can't seem to stop believing the lies. And then she said, was it the healing of your mind?
I learned that okay, so it's a variety of things. The first is that I learned to understand that crazy people don't know they're growing crazy. So if I'm feeling crazy, it means that something crazy is happening in my life and has to be addressed. And so now, whenever I start to feel crazy, rather than self blame and say, you're lame and you're stupid, Tracy, and blah, 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 I don't allow myself to go there. I now say, no, if I'm feeling crazy, something in my life is unsafe for me. And I start to look around, what's happening in my life? Why am I feeling powerless? And I have the two questions that I always ask. I have two emotional legs. One is I need relative control in my life, and one is I need relative safety. Where in my life do I feel relatively out of control, and where in my life do I not feel safe? And I will do whatever I have to do to get my legs back underneath me. That's the first thing that I started to do. So I started to address the situations that make me feel crazy. And I have a personal boundary in my life that it's a very healthy selfish mentality. And this is my journey too. This is my journey too. And I want my journey to be joyous because I've had enough tears, I've had enough heartache, I've had enough difficult times, and I'm sick of it. I'm so tired of it. I just don't want to do it anymore. And so I will actually use those words with people to say, you know what? I don't enjoy what's happening right now. This is not the existence that I want. I want to live a joyous existence. And so with this needs to change right here, right now. One conversation, wham bam, it's over. Let's move on. Because I'm only interested in living in joy. So that's another boundary that I have. And the third boundary that I have is I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am in control of my thoughts. My thoughts are not in control of me. And when my thoughts want to say they're bad, I took back to him. Those people are going to abandon you. Okay. If people abandon you, it means that they don't really love you. And so, why in the world would you want to have people around you who make you feel unloved? Why would you want that torture? What in you makes you think that's all you deserve in life? I deserve so much more than that. I'm a valuable human being. I deserve to be loved as much and as deeply as I love people. And I heard a great saying one time that the reason that your prince or Princess Charming can't enter the door is because you have the dodo bird standing in it. Get rid of the dodo bird so that the good people in your life can walk through the door. Self-regulating is it's getting ahead of the spin cycle and kind of making a commitment to yourself that says, okay, I could totally get upset and offended right now, but I'm going to ask 1 to 3 questions before I blow up. So, oh, wait, is there a reason why you're asking? Because it sounded a little, you came in a little hot and loud on that one. And that's a way to address people who might be yellers. That was a bit hot and loud how you're asking that question. We want to try again? And so we have the ability to not only diffuse ourselves, but to diffuse the people around us. The gift of self regulating. And when we self regulate, we can help other people regulate. And then we become that healer. We become that peacemaker. We become that person that all of us who we're not placating like we were in the past. We're that powerful healer that can humbly lead ourselves and lead other people to a better emotional space. The big eye opener for me that my only point of power is right here. And there's times that I want to run. I want to run. I don't want to take on the situation. And I remind myself, Trisha, your superpower is right here and now. You want to be a superpower, then you gotta show up right here and now. Use your voice and solve this with bravery and being the superpower person that you are. You just put that acrylic wall up, and then what's funny is if you really believe, like, your words cannot penetrate me right now. They will no matter what you say, they cannot penetrate this, and then what will happen is, like, you'll start to look at the person, and you'll look at their face, and you'll look at their pain, and you'll look at it and you think, "My goodness, poor thing, this person's really suffering right now." But it doesn't mean that I have to suffer. I can remain in my little bubble of joy because that's where my power is. Me living in joy, you living in joy means that we vibrate at a certain frequency that we manifest the life that we want. If your belief system says you deserve to suffer, you deserve to suffer, Laura. What I would say back, what my self-regulator would say back is, huh, okay, if that's the rule, then I insist on evidence. I insist on evidence where it is written that I am required to suffer. And if the universe cannot present me evidence, I am not signing up for that train. Not doing it because this is my journey. And I don't have to sign up for anything that I don't want to. My journey. Self regulator, our inner calm coach, needs to be that go between the child in us that was traumatized and the adult that we now have to manage this life. And I see that side of me as the person that's going to show up, is the one when I was little and didn't have the protection, that I show up with that voice to say, I know it hurts right now, but nobody's going to hurt you, Tracy. And I don't say, nobody's going to hurt you. And like that, I love you and nobody's going to hurt you. You are not put on this earth to live in pain. You were put on this earth to live in joy. Nobody's going to hurt you. And so that talking to yourself as the adult in the room, I know you're mad. I know you have a lot to say. Your anger is healthy right now. Might not be the right time to use it, especially if you're going to blow people's head off. So why don't you breathe, and we're going to think really clearly how we can state our need without ruining our reputation. If you remember that our only point of power is our present, that will prompt you to take care of things really quickly. And another thing that I'll add on to that is spend a tremendous amount of journey, a tremendous amount of energy really trying to find this journey to self-love. And I have this self love criteria list. And one of the things that struck me when I started to learn what self love looks, feels, and sounds is one of the characteristics of self love. It says self love is not afraid to speak up about the things that affect my life. And I challenge myself when I start to keep my mouth closed, when I need to have a voice, or when I want to walk away from something rather than deal with it, that I say, Pretty, do you really want to walk in self love? Are you really committed to walking in the journey of self love? Because if you are, you will deal with this directly, calmly, like that powerful, humble person that you can be. And just those little thoughts, that little recalibration, that little calm coach inside of me gives me the strength to stay present, deal with it, and get back to joy as quickly as I can. Somebody can't speak
Yeah.
respectfully to you. You just say, you know what? I'm not enjoying this conversation so much, and I don't think that it's respectful, and I don't want to return disrespect with disrespect. So I'm just going to take a little step back and regroup, and then maybe we can come back when we have a better definition of self to discuss this like adults.
All right. So, ladies, we are going to wrap up for today's class. Any last words, Tracy, Dr. Tracy, before we wrap up tonight?
I just impart with you the importance of understanding that this is your life, this is your journey, that you do not have to engage in conversations that don't feel right. You don't have to lose your mind. We're trying to hold your boundaries. That simply start to exercise your calm coach within yourself and then also with other people. And the goal is to get back to joy as quickly as possible. And you have the power to get yourself back there by what happens in here and the power of our mind.
Guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you back here next month. Take care. Have a great week.